Hello and welcome to the Wisdom Workshop. Please like the video and subscribe with all notifications turned on so that you won't miss any of our wisdom improving videos. It's crucial to be aware of these three things and to fully comprehend them, since they're currently occurring to great proportions that have not been seen since the 1930s to 1945. The first is the state of credit and money. When you reach a point where there is, say, no interest rate and you need purchasing power, the government also does, but they're unable to tax it. As a result, there's a lot of debt being created, which the central bank then purchases in order to spend it. When this happened in the last several years, starting in 2008 with interest rates at zero, the banks were unable to cut their interest rates. We're approaching the conclusion of a debt cycle because they had to issue a lot of debt, which the government then bought. Therefore, this is a major issue because of where the funding originates and who will receive what. The government will now decide that, print it, and the value of money will decrease. The fact that money moves in this way is significant, thus this is number one. The second is the widening political and economic disparities that are fueling major conflicts. Money and power, especially political power, have always been the fundamental issues that people have struggled for throughout history. So what we have is a scenario where there is a significant wealth difference and an economic slowdown, especially if you have a lot of debt and you also have conflict. That has been the case throughout history, and the political divide is evidence of that. Therefore, the political gap is the standard political gap. Left, right, capitalist, and socialist, but how do you distribute it, deal with that which turns into the other, and how do you resist it? So that's the second of the two, the wealth political gap that's fueling the conflict at a time when we're short on funds because of our precarious financial situation. We're creating and disseminating it with made-up money, so what transpired in the manner exemplified by the case of COVID was disastrous for many individuals and businesses. We would have had a revolution if checks hadn't been cashed. So those checks, how do you store everything, etc., and it's not like the government had actual money. Thus, they increased their debt, the Federal Reserve printed it, and the checks were issued, which decreased the value of money and altered other factors. The emergence of a new great power to contend with an established great power is the third factor, hence China's growth to confront the US. World orders, or the prevailing power, have existed throughout history. It's like the giant bull or anything in nature. There's this dominant power, and then in 1945, the American world order was established. After the United States won the war's victorious nations designated the world order in 1945. In essence, the US held 80% of the world's money at the time, which was gold. Because the US started the American century, the US accounted for half of the global economy and established the laws. As a result, the United Nations, the World Bank, and the International Monetary Fund are all located in the US. And therefore, we are in a position where no other power has ever challenged us in the same manner that the Soviet Union did. Because of their economic heft, they were never able to compete with us on an equal footing. Despite having nuclear weapons, they lacked economic might and other things. But now we have to cope with China being a major player. Over the last 36 years, Ray Dalio has traveled extensively in China and has come to respect many of their accomplishments. He's aware that saying this is debatable, but their power is truly astounding. Since he began visiting there, their average income has surged 30 times, making them a similar power that is likewise expanding more quickly, and as a result, that has an impact. Those three events, which have never occurred in his lifetime but have in the past, prompted him to research historical events in order to learn any lessons he could from them. We all feel its effects, therefore let's start with the most essential person, yourself. Putting aside external factors, how can we maintain our strength and health? What must we do? To understand it, you must be in it with me, as in, can we row in the same direction? If we can disagree intelligently and get past that. Whether we can cooperate like the rich and the poor. We might be on the verge of a civil war, which seems absurd but is actually true in most nations virtually every century. It sounds so tough, but at the same time, if you read history, you can see what occurs when you have a civil war. Therefore, it's almost certain that we will encounter a problem. You may either choose to fix it or start fighting. Once you pass a certain boundary, there's no turning back because you do the harm by demonizing that individual or group of people, which makes dialogue impossible. You can see this in politics today. Will candidates go to whatever extent to win, or will there be respect for the system and mutual respect in attempting to settle these kinds of issues? Because the reach of a constitution or legislation is limited. There must be some kind of deference to it. If you consider it, there are significant variations in the opportunities that I want to highlight. Let's assume that two people have equal opportunities. The marshmallow test involves taking a child and telling them they can have one marshmallow now or two in 15 minutes if they don't finish the first one. Once you begin to understand that postponing gratification would improve your life in general, and you begin to calculate the days, weeks, months, or years that you can survive without money, you begin to concentrate on that. Like the marshmallow test, it is the first step. I want you to save, therefore you must start there. If you do that, you will inevitably ask, what should I save in? And you will then begin to see how these things vary. Basically, that's what makes the difference. Once you start caring, so I can have one of these and one of those, you start experiencing things and learning from them. When it comes to money, if you have savings and don't need them right now, it suggests, I need savings. Therefore, the question of where should I place it will definitely follow. You will then have options, experience it, and learn from it. I believe you should first determine how long you can survive on your savings, since you'll have more security if you do so. So take a look at your expenditure and then ask yourself, how much do I need? Whatever the answer is, you'll need more than that because the value of your savings could decrease rather than increase. Do I have a year to spend now? I suggest you to begin there. Then you start to consider what matters most to you personally. So you begin with your home or place of business, which have a mutually beneficial connection and which you're familiar with. If you create your own business, that's great. You're closer to making the greatest investment possible in yourself, but if you have a job, that's not the case since you're in a different situation. And after that, I think your house has a fundamental quality that's beneficial because it forces you to save money and allows you to improve it as you go along while you're thinking, oh, well, if I add this or that, and you're loving it, therefore it's nice when you can enjoy it, control it, and claim it as your own. There could be some advantages if they maintain mortgage tax deductions and other benefits, but it isn't a clear-cut solution. In such case, you may use a short pencil to ask whether renting or buying is preferable, but generally, will I move? Hence, when you begin, what is near to your home and how much is it? When you require a particular quantity of liquid money, such as money you have in your home or money for a mortgage payment, and all of a sudden it isn't liquid and you lose your job, that might be problematic. So how much of what I have is liquid and how much of it isn't? Once you start doing those things correctly, pretty quickly, you start taking care of yourself, and then you start having experiences and moving beyond that. You begin by understanding what a stock and a bond are, and then you learn via experience. Ray Dalio gained knowledge from his experiences. When he was 12 years old, he began caddying. He decided to invest the money he made from caddying in the stock market, and he was fortunate to purchase the only firm he ever heard of that was trading for less than $5 per share. And he was so stupid that he believed he would acquire additional shares in the event that the value of the firm increased, since that was the only one he was familiar with. It was a business that was going to fail, but another business bought it and it tripled, and he thought, this is an easy game, and he liked it because it was simple money. You explore and learn earning $100 and spending $105, which is miserable. You can live a nice life on $100 worth of income and $95 worth of expenses. Basically, he's aware of a lot of individuals who are there despite having low income since, for example, if you consider the prices of only the bare necessities of life, such as housing, food, and education, you'll see that they are many. He believes that most individuals may arrange themselves such that they are net positive. Therefore, if you can get net positivity and accomplish that, that's priority number 1. Then, that was the list that we had previously reviewed. The second is what you should do next in terms of what you need and what you are best at, and then you should avoid the following investing mistake. Assuming that an investment that performed well is a smart investment. Quite often, markets that performed really well increased in price, and the smart money is always comparing and competing in these markets. Consequently, the gullible money purchases whatever was or is now popular. Diversification is also crucial because, according to what Ray Dalio has learned, investments compete and it can be difficult to determine which investment is superior to another. If this were the case, life would be simple and everyone would be rich, but this is a difficult game to win at. Therefore, it's really challenging to determine which is better or worse. You could use specialists and conduct a variety of experiments to determine this, but you wouldn't be able to predict if the worst results would be preferable. Consequently, you see that selecting the finest prospects is challenging. For this reason, his company spends hundreds of millions of dollars on research each year in an effort to give them an advantage. You must now contend with them. Therefore, it is tougher to compete in the markets than it is to compete in, say, the Olympics, but more people strive harder to achieve it. It's a zero-sum game. Thus, diversification is important to lower your risk without lowering your return. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please like the video and subscribe with all notifications turned on if you learned something new from this video.